Hello class, this is your teacher Mr. McDougall with your next Photoshop project tutorial. Now we're going to get into some cropping and how to use a clipping mask. So here are some more exercise files for you to download. Let's download them together. I will continue to walk you through the downloading process up until our first project. After that, I will no longer go through the downloading process. So you click those dots and then you click that download arrow, and now it's in our downloads folder. Perfect. Let's go to downloads, our file explorer right here, downloads. Here's our exercise files in the zip folder. We need to extract them by right clicking and going to extract all and then extract. Now we have the folder that we want. Let's open our Google Drive so we can make a project folder for these and have them backed up in our drive and not stuck in the downloads folder. My drive, intro to graphics, Photoshop, new one for today. 504, this one is cropping and clipping mask. So we're going to move these in here. We want this one, not the zipper one. This one is trash now that we extracted it. Take your file folder one and bring that one over here. This is the one with all your exercise files. All right, now they're backed up in our drive. We see our little cloud icon. Let's open Photoshop and begin. A lot of files, but we're not going to do too much of them. We're going to do just different things with each one. So however you have your layout set up, remember to either have this expanded or at least have the layers one expanded, because that will be the most important. So click on layers so you can see this panel right here. All right, so remember to open them. You can go to File and Open or Control O, or you can do it the fastest way, in my opinion, is to select everything and then just drag and drop them in the space to have them all open at the same time. And if your window is smaller, you can't see everything, remember to use these little arrows to select the file you want to work with. We're going to start with crop 01. Let's start with that one. I recommend having your file space as big as possible or your workspace as big as possible to make it easier on your eyes. So now we're going to crop this down. So the way this is cropped is okay. However, it's a little off balance, a little bit too far to the right, and there's too much space on the left. We're going to crop it down so this is in the center. So let's go to our crop tool. That one is this one right here. A tool you're probably familiar with. You've used one on your phone many times. The crop tool, or C on your keyboard. This will allow us to drag the corners in and crop it down. You'll notice this grid line pops up similar to what we learned about in photography. That's the rule of thirds. It's helped guiding us to make sure our most interesting subject points line up on those intersecting lines. If you hold Shift, you can see that the rectangle stays the same shape. I no longer squish it. If I let go of Shift, now I can make a funky squish rectangle or something, but if I keep Shift hold down, it keeps my aspect ratio or my size the exact same. So let's do it to the rule of thirds right about there. You can also move it around a little bit more if you want to line it up. There we go. Let's crop it to about right there so we have this nice square between the leaves and the hand. In order to finalize your move, it may not let you go other places or do other things until you've confirmed this, and you can either confirm it by pressing Enter on your keyboard or hitting this checkbox right here. That will confirm the crop, just like that. So that one looks good. One thing to keep in mind is what we did is we actually just deleted those pixels. So if I move this, convert to normal layer, so you can see what happens is when I cropped it down, I actually removed those pixels that were over there. Those are now gone. So I did some destructive editing. The way we can do non-destructive editing, if I Control Z to go back, or Control Z is your best friend to undo it. If I use my crop tool, and let's say I crop down like I did before, crop to about there. Up here where this box is, where it says delete crop pixels, if that's checked, all of this other part of the image will be gone. If I uncheck that box, and I hit OK, now it's still there. So if I go back to my move tool, you can see that the rest of the image is actually still there. I cropped down, but I didn't lose anything. So I can move this around and it's actually still right where I left it. So that's just another form of non-destructive editing. If you're going to crop, turn off that delete crop pixels box, and that way you can always change your mind and go back a little bit later if you wanted to. But this is looking really good. I like this one so far. All right, let's go to crop 02. So this one we're going to crop into a square. You're going to crop it exactly what it says right here on the instructions. So crop 02, it says this photo should be a 1:1 ratio, which means it's a square. So let's go back to our crop tool. By default, it kind of just lets you crop however you want. It's a freeform ratio. But if you go up here to where it says ratio, it actually has some preset ones for you, which are the most common aspect ratios depending on where you're going to post it. Right here, it says 1:1, which is a square. That's if you're going to post on Instagram. Now this stays locked in a square. No matter how much I drag the sides, it stays in a square the whole time. So this one we're going to make a square so we can put the tree right in the middle. Crop it in a little bit more, just like that. I'm going to leave this turned off so I don't delete the rest of the image, but now I'm going to hit check. And now I've cropped this image into a square so I can post it on Instagram if I wanted to. All right, let's do the next one, crop 03. So crop 03, this one we're going to do in a 5:7 ratio. So you can see again, it's left on the default mode. So I just did square, so it's still on square. I'm going to come over here and we're going to do the 5:7 option. This allows us to do a new rectangular shape. 5:7 is the most common size for frames. If you go to the store, you'll see a lot of picture frames that your parents probably like to put up with pictures. The most common options are 5:7. You can also switch them with this arrow. If I go here, now it's 7:5. Now it's this landscape version. So let's do this 7:5 one right there, and I'm going to hit check. So now I've just kind of cropped it in, and the reason for that, again, is to make sure it's preset. If someone wanted to frame this picture, now they can go straight to the store and know immediately they can look for a 5:7 frame, and this will fit perfectly. All right, the last one we're going to do is crop 04. So we're going to do this one, crop 04 right here, and this one we're going to do 9:16, which will make it vertical, so we could put this on an Instagram or TikTok story. So let's go to our numbers again. Go to the 16:9, and that's this one right here, this long rectangle one. This is the size of your phone, actually, in case you were wondering. Let's switch it. Click this arrow to switch them. Now it's 9:16. Now it's vertical. Now I can move this around right about there. Let's put her right there in the middle, and then click the check. Now it's 9:16, so this will fit perfectly on your phone screen. Your phone screen is 9:16. Aspect ratio. So if you're doing this for an Instagram or TikTok story, now we know this one will fit exactly the way we want. So that's why we have these common aspect ratio options. If you want to go back to the freestyle version, you can go back to ratio and hit clear to clear these numbers, and now you can crop it however you like. But we're going to stick with this one. And remember, I did not delete the pixels, so the rest of the image is still there, undestroyed. The next one we're going to use is we're actually going to use the crop tool, not to crop this in, but we're going to straighten the line a little bit. You can see how this is at a Dutch angle. It's crooked. We're going to straighten it out using the crop tool. So let's go to the crop tool again. Now for this one, we're not going to crop anything specifically. Make sure yours has been reset back to ratio and this is cleared so you can see the whole thing. You're going to use this little tool that says straighten right here. Click straighten, and it's a little bevel. You'll see now my mouse looks like a little bevel to make sure something is level and not crooked. What you're going to do is come down here to the horizon line. Remember, this is the horizon line where the sky meets the sea and your vision ends. So we're going to draw a line along this horizon line right here to straighten it out. So click and hold your mouse right here. Click and hold. We're going to drag this line. You see how I have this line going right now? We're going to drag it all the way to the other side. And I'm going to tell Photoshop to straighten on this line. So as soon as I let go, it rotates like that. Now I can hit check, and now you see it's been straightened out. So I've straightened the horizon line with the crop tool. I want you to do the same thing with these last ones right here. 06, 07, and 08. You can see all of these horizon lines are kind of crooked. Do the same thing. Use the crop tool. Crop, straighten with the bevel, and then you're just going to click and drag on the horizon line to straighten it out. There we go. Check. So do the same thing for the other two. I'll do it with you. Click straighten. And you can see that just slightly off, making us feel a little uncomfortable. We want it to be nice. There we go. And let go. Perfect. Now our horizon lines are straight. Last one. Straighten. Click and hold and drag along the line. Right there. So if you have a crooked photo, this is the easy way to make sure that it's straight by doing that. Now it's perfectly straight along the horizon line. Excellent. Let's do a couple new features using the clipping mask. So let's go to clipping 01, which is this one right here. Make sure you're back on the move tool. We're not going to use the crop tool anymore. That's the end of the crop tool for right now. Now you know how it works. Now I'm going to show you a cool trick where we're going to create a clipping mask, or a way to have a layer come through another layer. We'll get into masks a lot more in a few upcoming lessons, but let's just dip our toe into it real quick. So for this one, what you're going to do is we're going to actually use a new tool called the type tool. So see right here where it says type tool, click that one. And if you click somewhere on the screen, just click once, you'll see some text pops up. And now you can start typing. I want you to type your first name. I'm just going to type graphics for right now. But type your first name. And you can change the font and the size by highlighting it and coming up here to these ones. These are the fonts. You'll see as you scroll through, the font changes. For most of the effects in Photoshop, what I recommend is picking a big, bold font. A big, bold font will allow the effects to come through. One of my favorites is this impact one. See where it says impact? I highly recommend this one. You can use that one if you like, but if not, I would pick something that's big and bold. So again, if you can click on it, you can also adjust the size of the text right here. See where it says 72, or you can even do 300. That might be a little big. Let's go down. You can even type in a font. So if it doesn't have the one I want, I could type in 100 and make it 100 font. There we go. The color doesn't matter because we're actually going to make it be see-through right now. You can go back to your move tool, move it around. You could even increase the size by grabbing the corners and dragging it out like that. However you want to do it, just put your text on there. Make it nice and bold and thick text. If your text is thin, it's not going to see the effect really well. All right, so we're going to make a clipping mask to make this background layer come through the text. In order to do that, we need to have the background layer come on top. So if I try to drag it and move it up, it's not going to do anything because this background layer is locked. We're going to unlock it by clicking this little lock icon right there. That turns it into layer 0. Now it's unlocked, and now I can actually do things to this layer. I can hide it, I could change it, I could delete it. A little bit of destructive editing, but that's okay. It's a simple technique. We're not going to worry about it too much. So now take layer 0 and drag it up to the top. Remember how we talked about layer order? See how my text disappeared? It's still there. If I highlight it, I can see that rectangle is still there. It's just being hidden because this layer is on top of it. So layer order is always important. So now click on layer 0, this top background layer, and we're going to come over here to layer and then create clipping mask, and watch what happens. So with the clipping mask, it actually made a hole through the text so we can see through it. So if we use our move tool and you start dragging this around, you can see I can still drag the layer behind the text. If you're trying to grab the text itself, you can grab them separately. I can move the text like this, or I can move the layer. Remember, if you have auto select on, sometimes that might get confusing. It may not know which one to grab, especially if they're stacked directly on top of each other. So you can go to this. If I try to drag this, see how it grabs the background? Say I want to grab the text. Let's go here, and I go grab the text, but it's not working. Turn off the auto select right over here. Now I can move the text by itself. So the background stays where it is, or I can move the text, or vice versa. I can keep the text where it is and move the background. You can also move them together by selecting both. If I click one, hold shift on your keyboard and click the other one, now I'm moving both of them together. Just like that. All right, so now it's looking cool, but it's a little hard to read because we don't have a background. So let's create a new background. The way we're going to create a new layer is we're going to go up to Layer, New, and then Layer. Just leave it layer 1, that's fine. Click OK, and now layer 1 is on the top. We're going to add a solid color to this to make our text stand out a little bit more. So let's go to Edit, Fill. By default, yours is probably on foreground color. Change this to just color, and it will bring up a color picker menu for you. So let's pick a new color to go with. I'm going to go with purple. Click OK, and then click OK. So now it created this solid colored layer right here. And again, the reason we're seeing this is because this layer is on top. So let's just drag this layer to the bottom. There we go. Now our graphics is standing out. However, it seems a little flat. Let's make it pop with a drop shadow. We talked about effects in the previous lesson. Let's add another one right here. Go to FX and drop shadow. Make sure you're on the text layer right here. Drop shadow. And it will remember your settings from the previous one. So whatever you had set in the last one, it will do it again. You can mess around with this. Now we have graphics sticking out, looking super cool. So that is how you create this clipping mask. So you can see there's a mask created with the text so you can see through it. So you can put it however you want, just like that. I want you to do the same thing on this one, but use your last name. So this one, you did your first name. Do the same thing on clipping 02. Repeat those exact same steps. Go back and watch the video again in case you forget some of the steps. But do your last name and create another cool clipping mask exactly the way we did it right here. After that, you're going to move on to clipping 03. And this one, I'm going to show you a similar technique, but we're going to do it slightly off-center to make it look a little bit different. Let me show you what that means. We're going to start the same. Let's start with our type tool. And let's come in here and type again. Let's just do one letter. So just do the first letter of your first name. So whatever your first name is, just do the first letter. Same thing, make sure it's a big, bold font. And this one, we're going to make it huge. We're going to make it take up the entire thing. Go to 300. That works. Remember, you can change the size as well by going to your Move tool. If I go back to the Move tool right here, I can drag this, and I can just drag the corners to make it big like that as well. Let's put it right in the middle. Make it as big as you can. We're going to do the same process to create a clipping mask to get started. So we're going to unlock the background layer, move it to the top, like that. So now the R is underneath the background layer. And we're going to create a clipping mask. Layer, create clipping mask, just like that. So that's how we're going to start. This is where we're going to do it a little bit differently. Now we're going to duplicate this layer right here, layer 0. Remember, to duplicate a layer, the shortcut is Control J. So Control J, now it's made a copy of this one, and we're going to move it to the bottom. Take your copy, drag it down to the bottom, just like that. So now it looks like nothing's happened. However, it did. Our clipping mask is still there, but this image is kind of filling in the background. If I turn this one off, you can see that's there. This is kind of just filling in that gap right there. This will start to make more sense the more we do these masks. So for this one now, what we're going to do, this bottom layer, we're just going to make it a little bit different. We're going to offset it a little bit. So drag it from one of the corners, and let's just extend it a little bit more. See how the R is staying in this place right there? You couldn't tell because they were aligned perfectly, but now they're not. Excellent. That looks cool. Now it's just kind of offset a little bit. I'm digging that. Now let's make that R stand out a little bit more by adding a hue and saturation layer, and we'll make it a little bit darker. So go to this layer. Again, bringing back the previous lessons we've already been working on. Go to your adjustment layers down here, the little half circle, and then let's do a hue and saturation one. We're not going to change the colors too much. The one we're going to focus on is this lightness one right here. And remember, if your panel is closed, you'll see it from layers and go to this one right here, and then you'll have to go to properties in order to have that pop up. So if you don't see it, it's easy just to have this window expanded so you can see everything. But if you turn your layer on, go to properties, and then you'll see this popped up. I like to have this open. It just makes everything a lot easier. So take lightness, and let's just turn that down a little bit. There we go. So now you can see this R is standing out a little bit more. It still kind of blends in with the background, but now it pops out and it doesn't get lost in the background. Let's make it a little bit darker. That's looking cool. I like that right there. So that's another way we can use the type tool and a clipping mask. And you probably guessed it. Do the same thing on this one, clipping 04, except use the first letter of your last name. So do the exact same thing. This one was your first name. This one needs to be your last name. This is going to be the first letter of your first name, and this will be the first letter of your last name right here. And we've already done all of these. We cropped all these files on 1 through 8. These are all looking good. These are straightened. So I want you to take a screenshot as usual. This is what we're going to do for most of the practice assignments. Take a screenshot of each of your edited workspaces in Photoshop. So all of these images that you just edited, which is about 12, take a screenshot of every single one of them, and you're going to attach those to the assignment to get turned in. Remember to screenshot your entire workspace right here. Okay? I want to see how well you did on your cropping and your clipping masks. Okay? Have fun. If you get stuck, as always, let me know if you have questions, and I'd be happy to help.